Welcome to Fork Around and Find Out, the podcast about building, running, and maintaining software and systems. Hello and welcome to Fork Around and Find Out, the only podcast where you can observe your ability to DevOps. I'm your host, Justin Garrison, and with me as always is Autumn Ness. And today on the show, we have Adriana Villela. Man, I'm going to butcher. I did it right. Okay, good.
I love you.
Thank you for the nod.
You're good.
I'm good. I'm sorry. I wanted to do the Spanish. I'm in Southern California, so as soon as I see the L's.
It throws everyone off. I get Villela all the time. It's fine.
Villela.
Villela.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. You are, well, tell us about yourself a little bit. Tell us what you do and what you focus on.
Okay, so current role, I'm a principal developer advocate at Dynatrace. So I am fully into the observability space. I'm a
Not
CNCF
tracing
ambassador.
dinosaurs. Like my son has a page. It's not that, right?
No,
The
not
dad
tracing
jokes are
dinosaurs.
strong today, y'all. Did he have a Dr. Pepper right before
I
this?
love dinosaurs, by the way. Dinosaurs
amazing.
are amazing. Who doesn't love them?
Shout out to Project
Come on.
Bluefin. George Castro has a whole dinosaur theme for his Linux distro. And every season he changes the wallpaper. So like when I update, I just get a new wallpaper and it's always some unique art of dinosaurs. I love it.
What? I didn't know they were like, okay, I
yeah.
have all the stickers because every scale I'm like, hit me with the new stickers, but like I didn't know you get new wallpaper.
I will find the wallpapers and put them in the show notes because
The new raptor,
That's
like the little
amazing.
sparkly raptor is fire. Okay, like it's going on my like work laptop. It's adorable.
Oh my.
Did you give
So
the
sorry.
boys the raptor stickers from you?
I completely interrupted you. You're at Dynatrace.
ADHD.
We are on to a great
There's
start.
too much ADHD in this one conversation, and then you have then you
Oh
mentioned
my God.
dinosaurs, and then they made sparkly dinosaurs, and I was way too excited.
Yeah, we went from Dynatrace to tracing dinosaurs to sparkly dinosaurs.
Completely natural.
It's all good. Yeah, so I'm in the observability space. I got, I guess, thrown into the open telemetry realm. I say thrown, and I mean it like very lovingly. Because this is like my second DevRel gig. So my first DevRel gig, I worked at Lightstep, which was acquired by ServiceNow. So when I joined, it had already been acquired. But as part of that role, my manager at the time wanted me to get involved and contribute to OpenTelemetry, which made sense because so many of the major observability vendors are major contributors to OpenTelemetry. So even though I've been in tech for 25 years this year. Can I
Go,
swear
girl.
also?
Awesome.
Like, or do you bleep the
Yeah.
swears?
Well, FYI for anyone listening that hasn't been paying attention, we are not paying for editors for the show anymore. We can't afford it. They were great, but they also bleeped for us. So if you're listening to this with kids, there might be some expletives.
Who listens to boring like DevOps tech like podcasts with kids?
Some people force it on their kids as
Okay, so I can free
yeah,
swear.
no, it's fine. We get our warning out of the way. Yeah, we're
We're
good.
poor now,
Um,
guys. There's no
yeah.
editors.
I can't remember what I was saying, but yeah, I got I'm in the OTel space as a result of my first DevRel role, and I love it. I'm fully in. So when I looked for my next DevRel role, I wanted to make sure it was in observability and continuing on the OpenTelemetry side of things. So
How'd you get
Here
involved
I
in
am.
OTel and like observability and everything?
So it started, before my first DevRel role, I was actually managing two teams. I was managing 13 people, and they hired me to manage two teams. One was a platform engineering team, where it was all HashiStack. And I had come from Kubernetes land, and now it's like, learn Nomad. And also they put me to manage an observability team, and I knew not much about either of them. So I basically had to learn Nomad and observability as I went on my job. And my thing is like, at that point, I'd been blogging since 2020. So this was, I guess, I want to say it was 2022-ish when I was managing these two teams. This was at Two Cows. And if you're old enough, it is that Two Cows, the one where you download the free Windows software, that Two Cows. Yes. It still
Was there
exists, but they
actually
don't.
cows involved? Like, was there cow
So cows were
logos?
actually very much part of the company
Okay, good.
culture. Yeah, everything was a cow, but they don't do like the free Windows downloads anymore. It's now a domain wholesaler. But so
was the-
working
There was a computer manufacturer that had cow themed.
Dell.
Gateway.
Oh, Gateway, yes,
Yeah. I know, it
Cows
made
were
me want to
big.
buy their computers just for the cows.
I know, because that was so cute. And everything came with like the cow, like skin
Yeah,
theme
the
thing.
theme, the spots
to-
or whatever.
That's what I was
yeah.
saying. Like, if something's called two cows and I don't get a sticker with
Oh
like
no,
cow
there were
prints on
like
it,
I got little. I have my cows.
I would be
She's
so
she's
mad
going
if
to
I
herself
got
getting
it.
cows.
Oh yeah.
There you
oh,
go.
These are
okay.
the cows. These
Little
are
I
the
was gonna
cows.
say
I
there
got
better be like
2
cows involved.
This is a great
So there
audio
you go.
show. This
I'm
is-
sorry. I also, Justin, for you, I have my rubber chickens. So.
Mine are. I don't know if you can see them. Mine are on my shelf. You can see one like head
Oh yeah, I
peeking up
see
back
them.
there.
I'm gonna pull out. This is my
Wait,
You
there's
got
a
the blue-
blue one?
Oh yeah. And then I'm sorry, this is really unhinged. A goat.
We're getting a
I have
tour.
a goat.
Why do I have a goat?
Why not? It was at the store. I'm like, I need it.
I'm
I feel like
And
the
this is
goats
my
would
big
scream.
chicken.
There you go.
I'm cutting
all-
these clips just so that we
Just
can
the-
get Justin like
you
laughing
go.
at, because it was like it was a full Justin laugh. Like it was like he fell over and everything. It was
Yeah.
just it was awesome.
And the rubber chickens, they get me. It's
Yeah, rubber chickens are the best.
the reason
I'm
I
glad
bought my
that
rubber
you're-
chickens was actually for like an observability short that I did at AWS, where I was like, I was trying to explain to people how like health checks work. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, whenever you like curl a health check, it's just like, hey, are you all right? Are you okay? And many people were like, oh, we don't, they didn't in the past build that into their app of like, I need a health endpoint and just say like, are you healthy or not? And I was like, what's a way to like represent that? And I was like,
I
well,
wanted healthy and a rubber chicken.
for me, like was like again, like, in my mind of like, how would I represent that someone said I'm okay? And so I laid out the chickens on a table. I'm like, whenever you like curl that endpoint, it just gives you a little squeak. And it just like responds
I
back. I'm
love
like, yeah, we're
you,
good.
friend.
And
Oh my
So
god, I
much.
will.
Like,
So
how
one of
did
the
we get
chickens-
from like healthy? Are you healthy to rubber chicken?
it was how I
I
wanted to
mean,
represent. Hey, AWS
that
bought
is
me those rubber
amazing.
chickens. It was a reimbursement that I
Do you see
definitely.
this? He was like, I would
Oh my god.
because they got me rubber
They
chicken.
bought, my manager stopped asking why I was buying some things, and it was
I
great, but
just,
it was
like,
a little short. And
I just want to know, like, when they got like your like receipts for
it was all on when you buy it on Amazon.com and you work at Amazon, it's like this is all funny money anyway. Like we're not. So
Oh my
this cost us
God.
$0. So
Dude.
yeah, it was fine.
I love it. Just
I have a little sidebar rubber chicken story. I
no.
actually, when I was managing one of my teams, and we did, back when it was like in person, we would do like a weekly. We would do our daily stand up, and what we would do was when it was someone's, so we'd stand in a circle in the room. When it was someone's turn to talk, we'd pass them a rubber chicken. And then one night I'm out to drinks with a few coworkers, and I'm like, everybody's getting rubber chickens. And so I went on Amazon and ordered little mini rubber chickens for each of my team members. So that
I
became
never get
like,
anything cool like
a
that
team
at
morale
work.
thing.
No one's ever given me a rubber chicken. Like,
Welcome to
kinda
Fork Around
jealous.
and Find Out, the leading podcast about rubber chickens and squeaking. This is,
so yes.
okay, but
And we went from observability to rubber chickens and curl
what's
in
the
between.
weirdest prop that you guys have ever bought for a talk or like a video? Because between the two of you, there's got to be a good answer.
Oh, I had one of those movie clickers, the action thingy.
Oh, I have one of those.
I
I
use
just
that
use
for a
it.
talk.
yeah, the clap is great for.
Yeah, the clapper. Yeah. My daughter stole mine.
But is it the
Right.
weirdest thing you've ever bought?
It's the
I mean-
weirdest thing I've brought to a talk.
The
I don't know
weirdest
if it's
thing,
the
weirdest thing
weirdest
that I
thing.
actually did a talk with was balloons. Like I was up at Cube for
What?
my first talk, I'm out of focus now, where I actually had balloons and I had people. You can go find it. Like I think it was called "Let's Build Kubernetes" with volunteers in a spreadsheet, and I represented the pods as balloons, and I blew up balloons. I actually learned how to make a balloon dog, so I could make one of the balloons.
What?
fancy. But I color coded them too. So it's like I had pink ones or red ones for Ruby. I had a giant blue one, that like really big blue one for Java because it was just so large. I had green ones for Python. And then I would pop them because to kill them. And so that was all part of my talk.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
One of the weirdest things I bought for a video was this little thing. If no one can see it, but I can tell you about it. It's called a useless box. And so when you flip the trigger, it has a little like arm that comes out and just turns it off. And so that's all it's meant as a box that just turns itself off. Um,
And it has a Kubernetes logo on it.
It has a Kubernetes
it.
logo on it because I was explaining this useless box. You go
That's
look up
adorable.
videos.
Like a little arm just comes out,
Yeah,
like
look,
a
it
little
just
creature,
it
and
just comes out and
like-
just turns it off.
It's like a shut the
Gremlin
fuck up
works
arm.
in there
Yeah.
or something. Like it
And
just
so this is what a Kubernetes controller is. A Kubernetes controller is always trying to get in a certain state. It always says like so the state that the machine wants it to be is off. And if I go and change that state, it goes and turns it back. And that is the whole
my
point
God.
of a Kubernetes controller is just changing the state to whatever the desired state is. That was one of my most
Oh my
random-
God, I love that. It reminds me actually of like using Crossplane for managing like your resources, because I feel like that's one of the things I like about Crossplane is like if you go to your favorite cloud provider and try to like fuck with whatever you just created using Crossplane's going to be like, no.
reconciling
Yeah,
stuff.
it'll
That's the whole point.
Yeah, as opposed to the other
That is-
I see tools where they're like, oh crap, you broke us.
Someone has to reconcile that state, right? Like Terraform is known for like, oh, I have a state file, and every time I plan, it should be able to get to that state file to the new state file. But oftentimes you do some JSON magic yourself to say like, I have to reconcile this as a human. I'm
Exactly.
the reconciler. Yep.
Exactly. So anyway, that was like my little
Okay,
side
you two
side
OTel
pitch for Crossplane
and like
that I
Kubernetes.
appreciate.
My problem with Crossplane was it doesn't do everything. Like there's components it'll reconcile, but there's a lot that it doesn't reconcile. And so it's always like, hey,
I
which
did not
ones
experience that
which
part of
ones
it.
are you actually trying to reconcile here? And this was last time I used it was a couple years ago.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, I don't know if this is actually going to reconcile the thing that I think it would. So,
That's the coolest, bizarre thing that I've ever seen bought for a talk. But
That is.
like, I knew Justin was gonna win because the stuff that is ridiculous.
I have a whole shelf of stuff.
Yeah,
I
like,
mean,
it's
I had like for one talk, Anna Margarita Medina and I we did a talk together
She
on
has the
platform
best
engineering.
name ever.
I know, right? Yeah, so we were doing a talk together and we were role playing. So I think I played the part of developer and she played the part of platform engineer. So we had like t-shirts made with llamas on them.
I forget about
So
llamas.
They were different llamas. One was like a platform engineering llama and the other
How'd
one
you
was a
guys go from
development-
llamas to raccoons? Like, I love the like.
Oh,
the
okay.
whole-
So like every talk I do, I have a talk mascot. So I've done llamas, I've done raccoons, capybaras, cats, what else? Sloths, anything goes.
Justin, if you were an animal, what animal would you be?
A human.
You was an animal.
Lame.
I feel like he'd be a raccoon.
If anyone listening to the show wants to send us your favorite talks, I love watching recorded talks, especially ones that are unique and
But, like,
kind of
It has to be like a good one, like where they like really.
whatever's good to the people. They can send us whatever they want. I will
Yeah,
probably
but
watch
like
it.
the best talks are the ones where like they're different and they're not just like some boring watching paint dry talks.
It's true. That's why I appreciated your Barbie talk at scale.
I was really worried. I thought it was gonna just be me like making spicy takes with like memes in the back. It's like, please, somebody like this.
No, it was great. It was great. And having rewatched the Barbie movie after your talk, I was like, oh my God.
You know what? I'm going to download that so I can watch it on my plane.
Did you
Please
really
watch
not
it?
watch
Like,
it yet?
seriously,
I haven't watched it yet.
You
Especially
are the
in
worst
this
best
day and
friend in
age.
podcast.
I've been
hosting.
trying to figure out how to edit podcasts every night. Okay, the last week has been me just trying
I've
to
been
figure out how to
giving
do
this
this
talk
shit.
Oh,
since Grace
God.
Hopper.
I feel
you
your
had
pain. I
one
feel your
job,
pain.
okay?
I
Okay.
spent like so much time trying to figure out like different software to edit my podcast. I spent like a week trying out different ones and losing my hair over it.
Yeah, that was me all
Yeah.
last week. Was I need to?
I
schedule
feel your
these and
pain.
Get them going.
It is, at least once you figure out your software and your workflow, then it's like okay. But the growing pains
It's-
suck.
If somebody wants to learn Open Intel, Open OTel and Kubernetes together, how do you go from like 100 level to like more than that? Because I'm seeing a bunch of 100 level courses for how to do Kubernetes and like OTel, but how do you group it all together and actually build something and go from like 100 to all the like everything is like super in-depth Kubernetes in production or 100, and that's all.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So as
I would
somebody
say there's nothing like a good work project to incentivize you to learn
Nothing like being on
stuff.
call. Welcome.
Yeah, that too. Or like writing a talk. I'm writing a talk for KubeCon where I'm learning how to use Kepler. Kepler is a tool that tells you like the energy output of your pods and stuff. So for using it to tune the OTel collector. And let me tell you, there was a lot that I did not know. And I have to give a huge shout out to my coworker, Henrik Rexed, who has figured out a lot of this stuff and has taught me his like what he knows, because there is a lot of like really gnarly ass stuff. But these types of meaningful projects where you have like a goal honestly end up being the best way to learn. Like
really
honestly, the way like I learned Argo CD, for example, at a previous job was they were it was like a Microsoft shop, and they were using what's the thing in Azure where it's like it's not Kubernetes, it's just like Azure
containers. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget.
They have all the generic words. It's
They have
containers,
all
they
the
have
generic. It's like
Azure
not
DevOps.
Kubernetes.
It's yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? I forget what it's called, but it's
I mean, they sell to
Azure-
executives, right? Like that's the whole point of Azure is just like give me the obvious thing. The executive says, "I want to buy DevOps." Like, great, we have a service. For it. Right? That's you can buy
Exactly right.
DevOps. Here you go.
exactly. Yeah, so they were trying to looking into moving from like this Azure container, whatever it was, to Kubernetes, and I was like doing some POCing for them, and I was like, oh well, you need like a proper workflow. So I learned how to install like Argo CD on Kubernetes. I didn't know anything about Argo CD. I knew enough about Kubernetes to be dangerous, but I had to like having this mission like really upped my Kubernetes game like a fair bit. And if it weren't for that, like I would have probably still been in the 100 levels, like
Yeah, I've been looking into it, and there's nothing in the middle. Like, I do think that your videos are actually good, not just because I'm your friend, but because they're actually really good. Because I was like, I don't understand this, and then Justin's like, and then you pour water in, and I was like, oh,
I love your videos. Like you're like, oh my god, to make Kubernetes make sense.
I've come to like I have this theory right now that most of this like split between 100 level and 400 level is usually comes down to those like project based learning, where 100 level is really just like learning how to read, right? Like my youngest is learning how to read right now, and like you have to learn what the symbols sound like, right? Like you have to learn all this stuff that you don't know anything about it, and you're just like none of this makes sense. But now he's reading some things, and it's starting to he has the vocabulary to like read a couple things, and he's like, oh, that sign says this. I'm like, great, you're doing a great job, like, but he needs the chapter book, right? He needs to get to the point where he has a project that has an end goal of I finished this book or I did this thing. Now I understand what that was. And so when I look at the difference between my kids, it's like one is learning the sounds, the other one is finishing books, and now is finishing series, right? And that's where he's at, like he's reading all of he loves the Percy Jackson. What's the other one? Katniss.
Series.
That's where
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Finishing Hunger Games, and that's like he's at 400 level now, right? Like he's at or at least 300 level, right? It's like it's not like adult stuff, but like he's also doing like Edgar Allan Poe in school and that sort of stuff. It's like, oh, you're getting to the hard stuff. Right? Like this is where like you need to be able to understand the meaning behind the sounds and the words to put it all together to paint the picture. And that's where I feel like this big gap is, like where you're at 100 level, you're just learning the alphabet and sounds and doing small words, but you can't understand a story necessarily. You can't read it by yourself.
That's actually really true, because I feel like there's like a huge gap in kids learning. Like there's this, I don't know, I was reading this thing about how learning is not something that comes naturally to children anymore. And like, so when you're learning the ABCs and the sounds and everything, it's completely different than the stamina that you need to get through like intense, like
the desire to
paragraphs.
read.
Yeah. Well, no,
right?
it's not even the desire, because my kid will go around in circles and find ways to like ADHD, like audiobooks and everything else, and get things to read.
Well,
about,
your kids are hackers. They want the outcomes. They don't want to do the work.
They're very highly motivated.
But yeah, like that motivation piece is like, I don't know when my oldest went from reading basic words to reading chapter books. Somewhere in there, he
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
got the motivation. And that's where like a lot of these projects fall down, where you can't
Yes.
teach someone 200 level. You have to
Yeah.
let them, what's the phrase of like, you have to give them the yearn for the ocean, right? Like don't teach someone
Yeah.
how to sail,
Don't
teach them to go.
What is it? Don't give somebody fish, teach them how to fish.
Yeah, teach them fish. Yeah.
Sure, but like they have to want to, like you have to want to
Yeah.
eat some fish, right? Like I don't like
Yeah,
fish,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna go do it.
See,
right?
my
It's like-
kids want something
Yeah.
too bad though. Like I think because
Yeah.
I've been reading to them since they were like teeny itty bitty babies, that their reading comprehension and what they want to read is so much higher than their reading comprehension that they want to like
at
find
some
a way
point
to
that
skip
yeah
it.
that learning journey comes down to like you have to want to do the chapter book
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to get to the 400 level. And I think
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah.
gap for any, it's not just tech, right? Like any industry, even just reading, right? It's a hard problem.
Yeah. And I there's nothing better than like an incentive, like there's like a cool thing you want to try to do. And then it's like, okay, I have a mission now, and it's something that I'm interested in. Because I remember, like, so my dad taught me how to code when I was 10. He introduced me to BASIC, GW BASIC, for those who remember back in the day of the dinosaurs, the sparkly dinosaurs.
Back to dinosaurs. This is great.
Back to dinosaurs. And I remember, like, it didn't really, like, make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, you know, I would sit and like read computer books, you know, those thick ass, like very boring computer books. And it'd be like, whatever, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then I took my first computer class in high school, and it was Visual Basic. And now we suddenly had a mission, and it's like, oh, you can, you know, like you have an assignment where you can create a program to do whatever. And like I created a blackjack game. And then all of a sudden, now I have something interesting to do. So now I'm motivated to learn. So, you know, it's like, okay, I need to go from A to B. What are the steps that I need to do?
What's the hardest thing that you both have had to learn over your career? Because you've gone and got both the 20 years kind of in tech.
Oh, damn.
I'll say for myself, it's just the people dynamics of software.
Really?
I was
The-
going to say people
Kubernetes
too.
and all of this, the
No,
people
like-
was
Yeah,
the hard
it's-
part?
The people
People
like
was the hardest part.
understanding the politics and the process and the people and the impact it has on other people has been difficult for me my entire career. Is as far as like I've always been a little reckless in the fact that like I will try to adopt new things, and I
No, I was just joking.
but like when Kubernetes was coming around and I was trying to adopt it at
Wait,
at
how
Disney
did you get
Animation.
into Kubernetes? I know that you used to do like the help desk and stuff, and then I know that you were a system like admin, but like how did you actually start using Kubernetes?
Kubernetes was a ticket in Jira that said, let the web team self-deploy applications. Literally, that's all it said. And so we were on-prem Disney Animation, and we had a small web team. We had almost no web services, but there was a team that ran some web services internally, and the Jira ticket just let them self-deploy. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And we had servers and VMs and config management and all this stuff. I'm like, well, I'm not going to teach them Puppet. I'm not going to teach them to, like right now, the process was they send an email, they get a VM, they SSH, they deploy whatever they want. That's their machine. They own it forever. And I'm like, well, what if they had like dynamic ways of doing this? And I was already playing with containers, and just like, oh, well, we could package it as a container. They mostly wrote Ruby and Python. And I'm like, oh, well, like I need those to be contained so they don't interfere with other languages, all that stuff. On the host, I'm like, hey, cool, just do these containers. Here's some packages as a container. I built them some base containers. We gave them some generic container hosts, set up some load balancing, DNS, like, cool. I put it in I literally put it in a spreadsheet. Like, this is a spreadsheet now. This is where your containers run. These are the hosts. These are the endpoints, all that stuff. Here's the repo. When it goes down, these people get paged, all that stuff. And then I went on vacation, and I was like, oh,
Oops.
I have to be on vacation now. This is a spreadsheet. I tried to teach my team, like, this is how this thing works. This is where it runs. And they're like, I don't know any of that does. Like, who cares? Like, why'd you do it that way? And I'm like, okay, I need something that automates that side of it. And so like discovered, like I was deeply going down the rabbit hole of Mesos and Nomad, because we run
Ooh.
high performance computing environments doing render jobs, and we had custom schedulers. And I'm like, oh, cool. Mesos and Nomad didn't have custom schedulers, but it had fast batch workloads. And Mesos had a custom scheduler you could build. So I was deploying that stuff. I'm like, oh, this seems like it would replace our internal scheduler. And it ended up not working out for various reasons, but I actually sat down with Kelsey Hightower. He literally tweeted, like, I'm in LA for a few hours to kill. What should I do? I'm like, drive up to Burbank. I'll show you around the Disney lot. And we just spent 3 hours.
Get out.
And I was like, this is great. Like, it was my second time meeting him,
The
and he
way
just
that
came
you
up.
meet people is just fire.
Oh my
And,
God.
and so like we were just talking. I was like, hey, I was telling him about I'm doing this Mesos thing. We already have other parts of Disney have Mesos. We're gonna do Mesos. We're gonna deploy it. I have these custom schedulers I want to run. Like I didn't. He asked me why I didn't do Kubernetes. I'm like, well, because it doesn't have a custom scheduler. He's like, yes, it does. He's like, all the APIs are there. It's just not documented. This is like Kubernetes 1.2, 1.1, something like that.
Yeah.
Like super early Kubernetes. I'm like, well, it's not there. He's like, no. He's like, the APIs are there. You just have to try it. And so I literally spent the next like 3 weeks, every lunch break I would spend
I
on a
love the
GKA
way
cluster.
you neurospicy just dive right.
And I'm like, let's see if he's right. Like, I want to see, like, like, okay, is this enough for what I wanted? And I built a scheduler out of Bash. I learned the API. It's still up on my GitHub. It's like called Bash Scheduler. And so like I just
Damn.
a project to learn.
I was like, if I can build this enough in Bash to schedule a pod to go to wherever I want, then I understand the APIs enough. And so I built a schedule out of Bash over a week or two, just like lunch breaks. I'm just like a GKA cluster. Let me see if this Bash thing works. And I'm like, okay, I get it now. And they're like, well, I'm going to deploy Kubernetes now. So I went through, it was like a 3-month process, and the entire thing failed because I did not understand the impact that Kubernetes would have for other people's jobs. That was literally, hey, I can replace you with this control loop now. You don't need to do that thing anymore. And that is very hard for people to like, well, you can't replace me. Like this is my livelihood. Like this is the impact of technology on people's lives was the hardest thing for me to learn.
That was really hard.
That is so true. I have a similar story. Because I like the way I got into DevOps. And I think this ties in nicely too with your question, Autumn, of like how do you up your game, right? How do you go from 100 to 400 level? I got into DevOps because I had like a really bad deployment that everything went wrong. Like I worked at a bank for 11 years. Please pity me because and we deployed stuff to prod by basically writing up a Word doc with instructions that we sent over to a team in India, and we didn't even know who from that team in India would get the doc. And so I had to rely on my instructions being correct, them reading my instructions correctly, and them executing correctly. And of course, like one weekend, everything went wrong that could possibly go wrong. And I was sick and I lost my voice. So a thing that should have taken a couple of hours did not. And I remember bitching to my dad about it because he's in tech. And he's like, you should look at DevOps. I'm like, ooh, this sounds amazing. And so I'm like, I'm going to automate all the things. So I automated all the things on my team. And of course, like nobody, it was like it's like you do all the work and then nobody knows like how this shit works, right? And
someone needs to come up with a name for the phase of when you discover automation and then you lose your mind a little bit. Then you start automating things that like it's actually harder to automate them than do it manually because it's the high of automating things. Like it's a whole thing.
It is. It's a huge high. So, so this got me into DevOps. And then around like, I don't know, a few months later, the same bank that I was working on, they were like standing up a DevOps department. So they were getting like kind of mandating everybody, thou shalt do DevOps. Which included then we had to like convince everyone who's being forced to do DevOps that they needed to do DevOps. So that's how I got into like unofficial developer advocacy, because I wrote internal blog posts and we hosted like open houses and stuff to get people excited about DevOps. We did like a Star Wars themed open house. So we got like some dude dressed up as a stormtrooper and did photo ops with him. And we learned about DevOps.
You know what? I want to work for you. I never got rubber chickens or Star Wars
and Star
stuff.
Wars. Yes,
Like,
my brainchild. So, but as part of it, like, so we figured out like on the DevOps side, we got the CI part down pat. Like we even came up with like internal tooling that basically created like a DevOps pipeline that adhered to our standards and practices, because we realized that you can't trust people to follow standards and practices. You have to like give them guardrails. And then we got to the part where we were getting to the delivery part, right? And teaching the ops people Ansible. And they were not interested, because one of the big challenges was a lot of these guys, they would be monitoring emails after hours to see like what was broken. Hey, is there like a database that needs to be restarted, a server that needs to be restarted, right? And all of a sudden, or like swoop in to like fix whatever problems happening. And a lot of the problems that they were encountering potentially could have been reduced significantly through automation, right? And there was a huge resistance. First of all, it's like you're telling me I have to like learn this new tool, and now I'm not going to be working as many hours anymore because I'm not going to be manually executing stuff. I'm just pressing a button. So there was a lot of resistance. And unfortunately, because the people running that department were also like that, I think this is one of those cases where you almost get too close to the people you're working with, where you're like, oh my God, we can't do this to family. We're destroying the family. Like, so there was a lot of resistance from the people running the department to also embracing the change. And so it never reached its full potential because of all this internal resistance. So it's like we got the CI part, but not the CD. And I feel like that was kind of like the one frontier that a lot of organizations sort of failed at, is that there was the resistance of the old ops guard to actually changing the way that they did things.
And it's really hard to bring people along, right? To like, because you can't, it's hard to catch them up, right? To all of your discoveries and all the things that you're doing. It's like, oh, I can go from where you're at to like where you're going to be, and like help them understand that like you're not trying to replace them. You're trying to help everybody grow in advance. And some people just don't want to. And
Have
that's
you
again,
ever felt bad about bringing people along? Because I think it's interesting when like I was a database solution architect, we were pitching managed databases, right? So you're going to get rid of DBAs and a bunch of people that are no longer managing that database. But now it's interesting because now everybody wants to run things on-prem and get rid of their managed databases because they've got expensive, and everybody wants to move to Postgres, and there isn't a lot of DBAs and people to run things truly on-prem. So like, isn't it interesting the cycles that you run through? And then what if the fact that people use so many managed databases, now it's harder to find people to actually do
the skill set's not there anymore. Right. Like,
but but this is like we all like bitch about like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs, but it's like, if you're willing to just like retool and learn whatever kind of skill is in demand, I think like you'll generally be okay. Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's always the evolution.
I think there should be programs for that though, like where like, hey, you won't lose your job if you can continue to reskill, because like maybe not a program, but just some sort of like way to do that. Because I honestly think like think about it, tech is the cycles of replacing something with better to make it like less painful, and people would do better embracing it if they didn't fear like they were going to lose their jobs. But like that's kind of interesting because what you said is totally true. It's like the AI is going to take your job, but there's been several cycles of that already. So I don't know if that makes me hopeful because it hasn't taken their jobs yet.
Adriana, your story started with, I used to write a Word doc to send to someone for deploys. Like that was like, literally like when I started as sysadmin, like we would write a wiki page and then you would have to read the like step by step. Like, let me make sure I copied the right characters out because I wasn't manually typing this. And people forget that like that wasn't that long ago. This wasn't that like those people are all retired. I'm like, no, I'm still here. Like this was like
2016.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because look at how your careers have evolved. So like you guys are the epitome of the people that did upskill and kind of move with the changes, like you're not doing the spreadsheets and the stuff that you were doing before. And look at how like many, I don't know, like lives of career that your careers have had, which is kind of cool.
I think there's got to be that curiosity, right? That desire to learn. Like, I don't know, maybe it's my ADHD where I get bored easily, but also like with my bank story, like the ops people who refused to learn Ansible because they were very comfortable with status quo. It's like, I have my 9-to-5 job and I'll check my emails after hours and get my overtime pay. And some of these guys got so much money in overtime pay that they could afford Teslas.
Yep.
That's wild.
The forbidden T word. Sorry.
What do you think the next evolution is going to be, like in DevOps?
Oh, the next evolution in DevOps. I honestly, I think love to hate to say it. AI is going to be like our DevOps buddy, and I mean that in the best way possible, because I think AI can probably suggest things to us that we might not necessarily.
If there's one thing I've learned in my career is that people do not read. They will not read a log file. They will not read a message.
So true.
They will not. And if AI just reads the message and then just sends it back to them.
I'm so excited that you said that.
Thank
because
you.
It was so real though.
It's just, and this is why people write ads per my email. It's like,
it's not even a hard.
Read it.
People will not read.
I've been on both sides though, so like I can't even throw shade.
Yeah, no,
like
I've
definitely been the like, but did you see 2 like paragraphs down? And I'm like, oh, I skimmed that part.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I'm guilty.
I find the very interesting about that is, people will not read the message. They will not read the error message. They go directly to the AI bot and say, tell me what this means. Like, I just read you the error. Like, what? Like, just Google that thing for it, right? It's right here.
It's
But
so
like,
funny though, because it's like VMs in the cloud, right? Like, or like it's like servers in the cloud. But it's the same thing. It's like just it's redigesting the information in a different way. And I wonder if like for ADHD brains, because you can get it like summarize what you're looking for and you don't have to skim it, do you think that improves the process?
well, I mean, the amount of times that I've copy and pasted someone's error message they sent to me and said, your answer's right here. It's in the error message you sent me.
I know,
I don't even
right?
know.
Is that rubber duckying though, in a
No.
way?
No,
Like-
that's lazy ducking. I don't know.
I have to admit, like even yesterday, I was debugging something for my talk, and I'm like, "What the hell does this error message mean?" It was some like RBAC thing, and it's telling me like the Kubernetes logs are telling me exactly the permissions I'm missing.
I've
like
totally done that. Like I'm not even gonna
and it's
pretend
like
I have it. Like I've totally been like, what is this? And Justin's
my
like,
God.
right there.
No, for sure. I've spent whole days on debugging something because I did not read the thing. But the problem I
Yeah.
have is like as the systems get more complex, as the logs get more places, right? I was testing AI, what was the Notebook LLM, Google's thing or whatever, now it's not, for like white papers. And I was like, I read 3 white papers in a row. I wrote my own notes and then I sent them to Notebook LLM. And I said, okay, now give me a summary of this thing and listen to the podcast. I did the podcast version of it and the summary of it. And all 3 of those papers, the important thing that I learned from all the papers was not in any of the summaries.
I've had that too. I've had
Oh,
I
yeah.
get the summary backs from my meetings at work and it messes them up. Like I'm
Yeah.
not saying that they're not good if you missed the meeting, cool, right? Like if you needed something from it, but it's not the same as listening because
No.
it doesn't know what to prioritize. It's
I
going
agree.
for patterns, right? So it has no idea what the actual value prop and what was important in those conversations. So some of the times it'll either meld to like events that were talked about separately
Yeah.
together. So I still have to go and watch the recording, but I can like passively watch it, but it is not an even, okay, I missed it and I can watch the summary because every time, like even when I'll use the summary and start using the summary as an thing to update, it always has to be changed.
Yeah, I agree. And like I've actually for a while was using an AI tool for my podcast. I'd feed it the video, it would transcribe it, and then I would ask for it to come up with like social media copy. And it would like obsess over like the stuff that I'm
Yes.
like, why are you obsessing over this? Like, stop it. And I kind of gave up on using it because I'm like, you know what? If it's still like fresh in my head as I'm like going through the transcripts, like I don't need it. But I feel you so hard. It's so weird what AI will fixate
There's
on.
something about the human brain that already knows what's important from the conversation that AI has not been able to figure out with like pattern matching. It doesn't know, like, I don't know, it doesn't know how to pick like the main subjects that were important.
Yeah, yeah. Just wait till Skynet
as you were
comes out
mentioning
and
this,
like controls us all.
as we're talking, I'm writing notes so that I won't have to use the AI tool later. I'm like, oh yeah, because I have to
Yeah,
write
no,
the summary.
seriously, like I've done that. I've done that before too. I'm like, ooh, this is a really good point. I'm gonna remember
Yeah.
this.
But isn't it interesting? Even the AI tools that we've tried for the podcast, some of them are good and some of them are so far off.
Yeah, it's
wild.
I feel your pain. My conclusion is like use AI with caution for these types of things.
Yeah. I definitely think
at
it's
this
fun
point.
to make it like if I want to put like bullet points down and I want something to summarize and trying to make it sound smarter, like like kind of get it into like more of a paragraph and then I go and put my own stuff in there. Like it's great for unblocking me, but it's never been a finished product for me.
Yeah, I feel you. I will also say, speaking of AI, I don't know if this is a spicy take, but please don't use AI to write like your CFPs.
Oh my gosh.
Like, for
my
the love
gosh.
of God, don't.
For
Like-
everyone that's on a committee for a conference and has to read all of the AI submitted.
Do you think they just get the
talks.
same talk over and over again?
No, people that give the same talk have a set, like they have a good paragraph usually. They're like, this is a good title.
No, but I mean, like, do you think AI is spitting the same talk for everybody out? Like, like when they, like, because I definitely know people who use it to get ideas, but they write the actual talk. Like they'll be like,
Which is
this
fine.
something.
Like maybe you need an
But do you
idea
think some
generator.
people are actually submitting the same talks because AI is suggesting the same talks
Oh.
and they're
Oh,
using
two different
verbatim?
people
Yeah.
submitting the same idea.
Oh, I've never thought of that.
There's a lot of overlap.
Possibility.
I don't know. Any conference that's significant in any like size is going to get, you know, a handful of the same type of talk,
Do you think
even
like
at
there's
scale.
anything that like that points out to you that like it is AI generated?
It's the words. It's the
Yeah,
words.
the vibe completely.
Yeah.
I'm actually
yeah.
I'm really worried that people are relying on it so much and we're rewriting a lot of it, but we're reading it so often that I know the more I read a type of writing, the more I start to write that way.
That's
And
what
at
I'm
some
worried
point,
about.
I'm going to naturally AI write to
Yes.
myself, right?
Yes.
Well, not just that, but
That happened to me. I was writing a CFP and it was like my words. And I was co-writing it with someone and I turned to them like, oh my God, this sounds like AI.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's like written by me.
But like that's actually they did a study and they said that so much of what is out there right now has been polluted by AI, like talks and blogs and just so much content that it is making so much content at a higher speed and
Yep.
like at a bigger volume than humans, that so much of it is starting to repollute itself.
Yep.
So when
Oh,
you
yeah,
go-
I could
our
see that.
humans are going out to look
AI's
for
training on AI
yeah,
content. Yep.
and not
Yeah.
just that, but humans are training on it because when we go out to look for research, so many blogs are written by AI now.
Yeah.
That
And
it's what we're finding.
I agree. And I find that very unfortunate because I think like I love writing, and one of my favorite things about writing, especially that I find different from like high school English where it was like very formal essays, my writing is very colloquial. And so the way I speak is the way I write, and I have lots of fun with that. And I feel like a lot of the AI writing that you get out there is like, I don't know,
Monotone.
it's like it's got to pull up its ass and monotone and repetitive too. That's another thing. Like I think sometimes you can tell it's an AI blog post because it just goes around in circles saying the same thing but in slightly different ways.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done that too, but like AI does it in like the most boring paint drying way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally guilty of that too, even when I talk.
There's also a portion of this where I feel like it's super useful for people that don't know the language natively, right? Like
Sure.
I've spent a lot of time with people that are not native English speakers and they're like, I'm sorry, I'm using AI to help me write
Hey.
this thing. And I'm like,
By all
I
means.
will spend some time with you to make sure that we try to get to the bottom of what you're
But
working
see,
on.
that's like
Yeah.
resourcefulness. Like you're
Yeah,
using
yeah,
a tool
totally.
to help you bridge a gap. And that,
Yeah.
like, I'm all for. And I think like that's the way that we should use AI, right? To help get better than what you started with. As long as you've got like whether it be someone like you helping them or something, it's something to make the like finished piece just verified. Even if you're sending it to your friend, like I don't know if you guys do that, but I definitely will send like a blog or something or like a talk to my friend and be like, does this suck? Like, is it good? Like, you know?
I think one of the problems with that is every text box on the internet is becoming filled with AI. And
they're kind of encroaching it. Like, it's like, oh, I'll rewrite this. I don't want you to. Leave
Yeah.
it alone.
Yeah.
But especially for open source, right? The limitation of open source is maintainers' time, right? Like
Yep.
you can copy the software as much as you want, but the maintainer's time is super valuable and you have to be able to be concise and only communicate the things you need. And as those boxes are filling up more and more with randomly generated stuff, that maybe it's a tool to help someone, but also maybe it's just I made this more verbose because I didn't read the error message. Is difficult because now the maintainer's not saving any time. The AI is not helping the maintainer summarize those because you can't summarize someone else's problem the same way because you're going to miss those important details, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
all of
true.
those things, all the debugging.
Constantly, which is funny because like, so like we were talking about automation earlier, right? Like in DevOps, there's just kind of like, you have to have this balance and kind of marriage of humans and automation. Because if you automate too many things, it doesn't work and it has its own issues. If you like, because you can automate yourself out of documentation, you can automate things that are too complicated to automate, yada yada. Humans have their own human error, right? And you want to automate like repetitive tasks because your brain is just going to mess it up if you have to do too many repetitive tasks, right?
Yep.
But it's like funny because it's like the same problems that humans have sometimes are what AI has. Humans forget to ask for enough context, but we have like inherent context, and AI cannot get the context. So it's like,
Yes.
it's just funny to see that there's so many like patterns that repeat, even in our like our kind of search to get rid of those patterns, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. And what you mentioned about context, I think, is probably one of the hardest things. And actually, one of the things that I find most frustrating in technical documentation, especially like a blog post or official doc somewhere, is that assumption that you know what the fuck they're talking
That
about.
makes me so mad. Like, I've
Like
never
it
wanted
makes
to
me mad
fight
too.
documentation so much in my entire life when they assume that you know something, and I'm like, I wouldn't be here trying to learn it with you, you idiot. Like, what do
I
you
know,
mean?
right?
Like, it makes me so mad. But
It's
like,
like those. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I just think that that's when like you should take something, like if you're going to make documentation for something, or if you're going to tell people how to do something, you should find someone, like whether it be like a kid or someone that has no knowledge of that thing, and then try to teach it to them, and then like have them talk back to you. Because like, this is why I think also like not having junior engineers is really going to mess things up, because how
Yep.
many people have we talked to that they're like, well, we want to be remote, or we want to do this, or we want to be a startup, so we're only going to hire senior engineers. Cool beans, but you ruin so many senior engineers when they don't have to teach a junior engineer. They forget how to teach things. They forget there's so much context to like having people remind you where other people started. Like, there's so many muscle memories that you need there that you're losing by not having junior engineers.
Is that also one of the problems with the 100 to 400 level content split, where if I'm writing a 300 level documentation, I'm not going to link to a bunch of 100 level things because no one clicks the links. We all know, like everyone's like, I'm not gonna.
I
I'm not
love
gonna
a
click
good
on it.
link. Like,
But like if my first paragraph is 8 links, you're
Yeah.
not gonna stop and go read the links. Even if I tell
I
you
probably
stop here,
won't,
go,
but
right?
I appreciate the courtesy, especially if it's it.
But
So when
also,
I
But if
blog,
I get
I will
fluff,
link to death
yeah,
because I'm assuming there's like some poor schmuck out there who's like, newbie version of me
I'm
who's
the
like,
poor smart
what are
that
you
will go down
talking
every
about?
one of those links just because it gives me
but
more
Autumn, it doesn't
context
matter if
I'm
you just leave the
confused.
tab open. You have to read it.
Hey,
Rude. I read the first 2 paragraphs, Justin,
throwing
and I skim the
shade.
rest. You know, you
But
don't have to tell people you really know me and that like you're my friend. God. Like,
I will
but
say
I
though,
do
like
though.
I do want to go back to your junior engineer comment because the other thing that I find infuriating about like people who diss on hiring junior engineers is that there is something that junior engineers have that more seasoned engineers do not have, which is this naivete. Like they're not jaded yet. And so they bring this amazing perspective to you, this sort of cheeriness that kind of reminds you of like, oh my God, I was like that before. And they bring fresh eyes because,
It's like when you
like
have to
they're
teach your
oftentimes
kids
fresh out of
something.
school. Sorry?
It's like when you have to teach your kids something and you remember
Yeah,
the magic of experiencing that for the first time.
exactly. Exactly. Like sometimes I've had junior engineers that have been better than my more senior engineers because they bring a fresh perspective to it. And that's another thing too. Like I think we have like in our society, we have this sort of almost hierarchy where we expect like to be mentored up, right? Like your mentor
Mhm.
has to be someone higher up than you, but we easily
Reverse,
forget that.
reverse mentoring is baller. I did that at
Yeah,
Amazon, and it
exactly.
was wild how much the L7s would learn from the junior people, and the junior people are learning from the more like higher up people. But it's
Yeah,
just, it's amazing how that becomes this symbiotic, both like
exactly.
reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Like people have to get their heads out of their asses with regards to like, oh, this person's junior, they have nothing to teach me.
It's
You are
weird.
junior and you probably have a lot to teach me because you've got a different perspective than me.
I feel like when we say that we need diverse voices and perspectives, people think that that just means like brown people or women, but like it also means people that came from a completely different background for you, people that have
Yeah.
different experience levels, because everybody, like when you see someone who's about to be a senior engineer, but not quite a senior engineer, and a senior engineer have a technical argument, both of them have valid points. One has more experience, but sometimes one can have more of like wanting to take a chance. And those have been some
Yeah.
of the best arguments I've ever watched have like technical. And it's almost like you get some popcorn and then you learn more than you'd learn in a college class, like in 30 minutes, because they're arguing the points, but almost in like, to me, like I hate like reading through something when it's like super long and drawn out, but that's almost like summarizing technical documentation and watching it played out in front of you. And
It's
it
like
is
watching
such,
someone debug. Right? It's one
yes,
of those fascinating things
Yeah.
where you watch someone that like live streaming coding, stuff like that. Like when someone's like in an ops call and they're debugging a system, just knowing what questions they ask, where they're looking for the context that they
dude,
need to
I
solve a
learned
problem.
so much watching like a senior engineer go into the man pages and then come back and then do a grep and find for something and then, you know what I mean? Like it's
They're
just,
constantly just trying to reevaluate what is actually
yes.
going on here. How is this working? And you just understand where they're looking and where they're trying to
It's
find
all
that
a
context.
process. Like the same, like I learned that through going through art school and then going to something technical. A lot of times people will be like, well, you do all this and do that. And I'm like, well, what's your process? Where do you start? And what do you do when you start getting like stuck? And it's weird because I think that the society's got this weird take towards junior engineers, through kids, through like a bunch of like anything that they deem inconvenient and not up to their speed. But like, I just look at people and I'm like, all of you like a-holes were all kids at one point. You were all junior engineers. And
Yeah.
if people gave you like the kindness and let you fail and let you learn, why can't you give that like same courtesy to other humans? It was given to you and that's how you got here. Somebody mentored you, somebody made you, let you say a bunch of dumb things first and try some stuff that didn't work. And sometimes it did work and that's why you're here, you know?
I agree. I agree. And I will also say the same happens for like older people in tech. You know, you see like someone who looks really old
Oh my
and you're
God,
like,
yes.
oh my God, they don't know anything. And you know, like you get the tendency is to have that bias in the same way that, you know, you look at the junior like, oh, they know nothing. Like
Ageism is a thing. Like my
the age, yeah, it's like horrible.
she's amazing and she is probably like younger than me in spirit and like people will like she's dealt with so many things with ageism and I'm just like I don't understand. They're just gonna look at you and think I don't want all your experience and all the good things that
Right?
like how what, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like I don't like I just feel like when you have people that and especially if somebody is a good teacher and a super senior engineer, like that is just it's like almost like growing your org at operations of magnitude. Because when someone comes in and they've taught different technologies and they've been on different teams and they've kind of lived through that life cycle of, you know, having different jobs in tech, they not only know whatever technology you're hiring them for, but they know how to learn and they know how to teach people. So like you just know that you're bringing it like if you do a good job, you know, interviewing and hiring them, you know that you're bringing in a false multiplier, you know?
But I mean, that goes all the way back to what we started with, where you have to be motivated to learn and change, right? Because not everyone is
Yep.
motivated to learn and
You're
change,
not
and
wrong.
plenty of people are comfortable, right? Like Adriana, like
Yep.
someone that's comfortable in their job, and like, I don't want to change. I'm not going to learn something new. I'm going to retire in 5 years. Great. Like they don't have to, and
I
they're
can't deal
probably
with
not
those
the
people.
person you want
Yeah.
to. Like I know for myself, like I will probably not want to learn new things at some point in my life, and that's going to be like I'm just gonna be like, I'm kind of like I don't need to learn a bunch of new stuff. Like I'm not
gonna
gonna
be the grandma with pink hair learning new things because I'll be bored.
I could totally see you being the grandma with pink hair learning
It's gonna
new
be
things.
rad.
I love
Like
it. I love it.
But at some point, like people just get in that groove of like, I know enough of my boundaries. I'm comfortable here. I don't have to do any other hard work. I don't have to work the nights and weekends. I don't have to spend extra mental effort on this stuff. I just like, I know my lane and I'm going to stay in it for the rest of my career and I'll coast here. And there's a lot of people there. And there's a lot of people at the other end of that where they're so junior, they don't know what lanes exist. And they're just
and
like,
they want to do all 3 lanes at once, and you're like, calm down, bro. This is a little too much. Like just for real.
but I feel like you have to give them that motivation in both
Yeah.
sides of, hey, do you want to do something different? If you don't, that's okay. Like not everyone has to be upping their game all the time. I do know for myself that by constantly doing that and learning new technologies and pushing people, maybe in situations I shouldn't, but pushing myself,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, it opened up more opportunities for me to be able to explore new things and change my
also,
career.
there's some times
Yeah.
where something simple and something that people have been using for a long time will get the job done better than the new technology. And sometimes
That's
that is
true.
valid. You just
That's
have to
true.
know when to concede.
I agree, and I have a story from my early days. I was a Java developer for many years, and one of my
Shout out
early
to Java.
projects we were doing I was working in telecom, and we were doing we're doing some ETL, like custom ETL work, migrating from like one system to a new system, for networking, for managing networking equipment. And the company we were using, they had a Java API, and it was like a massive migration of data. And we started doing like some benchmarking. Like, it was so fucking slow with Java, but they also had a PLSQL API. If people out there remember Oracle PLSQL, and we did a bunch. We did some testing, and we're like, oh shit, the PLSQL API is so much faster. And I remember being really mad, because I was in my early 20s. I want to do Java. I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to do this PLSQL crap, and it's going to like ruin my career. This is not, like, not marketable skill. How dare they? But I had to put my ego aside and admit that like this was the better way to do it. Like, I think sometimes we do have this tendency of being blinded by the shiny new thing. And as Autumn was saying, like, it's like sometimes the simpler solution is the better solution. And so this was like a huge lesson for me, that like, you got to just put your biases aside, go with the thing that works better. And it turned out to be like a good thing for me, because I learned like database performance tuning as a result. But
I
like,
spent
yeah,
3 weeks trying to write a Python script, and I was like, Python is so much better than Bash, and it's gonna be great. And then dependencies and package managers and all kind of dumb
oh
things
shit.
totally got me. And just then it took 5 lines of Bash, and my senior engineer was right, and I had to like totally.
Oh no.
And
Did
I
you
was
cry?
I wanted to. I hate Bash so much, but sometimes it's really good at doing it.
I know, right?
know-
Python, you can like write this beautiful like little command line program. And,
Put it
yeah.
in functions. It's beautiful.
AI is really good at writing Bash. Just FYI,
Oh.
because there's so much out there.
But
There's
can we
so
talk,
much.
can we talk about that? That is what
Smart.
you use AI for, because
That's
sometimes
smart,
Bash will make
actually.
you so mad, and you're just
That's
like,
smart.
why does this need a space here? This is so. Look,
Yeah.
Bash makes me types of angry that I am ashamed of.
That I
I
can understand.
I love writing some Bash scripts, and
But
I
it is
was-
so freaking useful. Like, I have learned my lesson, and I'm not saying that I won't try to write a Python script every now and then, because I'd rather write Python. But sometimes a stupid cron job, write it in Bash, put it somewhere, and have it do its
It's true.
job. Throw some regex in there, ask Google for lots of help, pray it works out, and it's the right thing to do. Okay.
I've told you my rules
Yes.
for when I stop writing Bash, right? Like, I think I've said it on the show, or at least on
No.
Ship It. I have 3 rules for when, like, I will start any software in Bash the first time. Then I'm just like, I'm going to prototype the experience of it, whether it works or not. I'm going to stub out some things. But I will move off of Bash once it either gets to more than 100 lines of code, where it's like, I need a 100-line
Damn.
Bash script. Like,
After you
beyond
hit
that,
like 45 lines, you've
I don't
you've
think I've
gone
ever
too
written-
far.
Yeah, I don't
oh,
think
I've definitely written
100
like
lines of Bash.
multi-100-line Bash scripts, and I'm like, this is a
That is
mistake. Like, I
hardcore.
shouldn't be doing this. But after
I've
about
got to
100
like
lines,
47, and I was like, bad decisions were
Yeah.
made.
Damn.
I'll tip out at 100, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to move to a different language that has some other proper importing and stuff like that. Or if I have to use a associative array or an array in Bash, like, it's just like, it's calling it is so
it hurts my
garbage,
soul.
right? Like, I'm just like, oh, I
yeah.
hate looping these things. And if anytime I
Yeah.
need an array or a map or whatever you want to call it, whatever language, it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then if a script takes more than 2 flags, as soon as I'm on my 3rd
I've had to write
flag,
more than 2 flags.
then you're like, oh, you know what? I should just write Go
But
or
see,
Python
it's-
or something else.
Or
Like,
parsing
those are my 3 rules.
JSON.
Parsing
Oh,
JSON, JQ's fine. Like, I could exec out to JQ. I can get whatever JSON I want.
I'm probably better at parsing in Bash, but it was like not one of those things that came willingly. It was like your senior engineers being like, we did it, we're doing everything this way, and you're like, okay, fine. Like, and it came
Super
out
great
better
skill.
in the end, but
Yeah.
like the whole time you're like, but why? Like, okay,
Now here's a question: Bash or PowerShell?
Bash.
I mean, I don't do Windows anymore, so I don't I'm not doing PowerShell on Linux. It's just
Yeah,
such a foreign environment. I really enjoy new shell and
never tried
shell.
that.
We had them
Oh,
on on
yes.
Ship It a while ago, and a lot of the things that I liked about PowerShell work in new shell similarly, but it's more Linux native. It is more
Nice.
of a, hey,
might
we
try that.
know that external commands exist. Like PowerShell is like everything has to be our verb noun sort of
It's so
syntax.
I'm really
verbose.
enjoying learning
It re-
WSL.
PowerShell is like the or shell language for Java, right? Like everything is like these long words of like, I don't want to do this.
Oh
And
my
everything's an
God,
object,
that's so true.
right? It's just like, it
Look, I
feels
love
like Java.
Java, but sometimes I'm
If
just like,
Java
why
were a
didn't we
shell
do
language.
this?
Yeah,
Stop
exactly.
it. Like,
It's like
this
the
is,
Java REPL, or, whatever.
Oh
But
my
like
God.
new shell
Yes.
has a
I've
lot of
used
that
it
stuff.
twice, and I was like, let's never do this again.
So new shell is like Kotlin is to
Okay,
Java.
Oh,
but do you know why? Okay, but real talk though, like I was so excited about Kotlin and I thought it was gonna be Java and Python having a baby. But now it's like this unstructured blob sometimes when it's a really big repository. Like it's just so much and there's like not enough structuring to make it readable the way that I would like it to be. Like
You like
Python's
separate
got all
files.
those in no, oh God, no, don't say that. But like I guess the brackets in Java and the indents in Python, it still gives you that space to know, like, okay, this is a function in the way that you go down reading it. And Kotlin just gets very, like, busy when you're
Oh,
trying to go through
interesting.
a huge repository. But it is it's really well made how they, like, how it hooks into Java, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way that we've discussed with, like, the way that you have to teach and automation and, like, junior and senior engineers, how do you think interviewing needs to change to actually, like, where do we need to evolve in interviewing to actually ask people real questions about this type of skills? Because, like, I feel like the
Oh,
interviews we give
damn.
now are the reason why we end up with these toxic 3x engineers because they're memorizing some stupid leak code, right?
And that's the
Like,
end of
Oh
our
my
show.
God,
Thank you everyone for
yes.
joining. That's
like,
I think that's a great question.
you know what I mean?
I have thoughts. I have thoughts.
Like, how do we know somebody is like the empathetic teacher, senior engineer that's willing to grow from elite code? Or like go write us Instagram on a napkin. Like, how much does that really tell you about somebody and how they're working? You know what I mean?
I agree, and I will say also, like, I know you work at Microsoft. I don't think they interview like this anymore, but I remember I interviewed as an intern for Microsoft back in the day in 2000, and they used to like ask these like brain teaser questions,
they wanted to be Google.
and that was not my vibe. And I remember I think there was like I hit, and even at like lunch, you'd like interview the entire day, even at lunch hour. I remember someone asking me whatever brain teaser question. I'm like, I just don't have the mental capacity for this now. Like, I hate brain teaser questions. They make me nervous, and they
Yeah, they
don't
make me
showcase me
nervous.
as a problem solver. And I think that's a thing that technical interviews make me nervous when someone is like, hey, pair with blah 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 person. Don't ambush me with like a pair programming challenge. First of all, I think pair programming is a very personal experience. You can't just pair with anybody. There are certain people that you're very compatible with pairing on. Like, for example, if I were to pair with someone and I've only paired successfully with one person, I have to be on the driver's seat because I have a control issue.
I also feel like there
And
has to be a trust aspect there because
there
half the
has
time
to
you
be a
just
trust
spend it being
aspect.
like nervous.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I still
It's
think
got to
that
be.
even when you're interviewing with people, right? Like there's got to be a better way to showcase how engineering is a team sport. Like when you're working with somebody and you're both bringing ideas and somebody being able to listen to your ideas, like you like nobody wants to work with a jerk who's so supposedly technical but can't listen to ideas and can't like go back and forth and like kind of like have you ever seen two engineers battle it out and have like the craziest technical talk where you think they're going to be mad at each other afterwards and be completely not, settle on the best thing and then go to lunch together? Like there is a special type of personality where you can have those deeply tough technical discussions and still be friends afterwards or still
Yeah.
be kind afterwards and respect each other. And I feel like we've got to do better finding that. And I don't know if even like the technical, like the typical, like here's this like leak code problem and we're going to work it out together, because there's no real like you're not really working those out together. Like you might be able to ask them for like a hint, but it's not the same thing. Like how do you test to see if this person works well in a team? Because that is one of the biggest parts of being an engineer. How do you test that like somebody can teach and you know what I mean? Or be teachable or curious?
Like I had an interview recently, which I quite liked, where I was asked to like present something, like present a strategy for something. And I like that because it was fun to like come up, like show like my thought process around the topic that I was asked to present on. But then get the feedback from the fellow team members. And I think having like that conversation, and sort of like building on each other's ideas, having that kind of structure was very, I thought for me was very um much conducive to my personality,
I like
because I find like being asked to like code something on the spot, like, or being asked to do a take home coding project, like that shit stresses me out straight up. Like,
I don't
and
mind
I
take
consider
home
myself a
so
good
much.
developer, but I don't like those types of tests. But something where I get to showcase sort of like my thought process, or like ones that I really like is describe how you solved a problem. And I think
I love those.
someone who has a cool problem that they solved and is enthusiastically describing how they solved the problem, I think you can get their level of technical prowess, I think, from from that description of how they solve the problem. And I think you can usually weed out the crappy people from the non-crappy people, because the crappy people the non-crappy people will give you that enthusiasm, and will almost like overshare, like, oh, I tried this, then I tried this, then I tried this. So
I feel like
that's my thought. I don't know if you guys agree.
interviewing, I feel like, needs to be very specific to the levels, like where people are coming in, right? Like junior versus senior should be different interviews. I actually really enjoyed the Amazon structure for interviewing internally, where I don't like the leadership principles, but I liked that everyone had, when you were interviewing in the loop, you got 2 leadership principles that you were supposed to ask questions about.
I like
And
the structure.
they gave you a lot of structure so that it was consistent, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't, I didn't necessarily say it was fair for everyone, but it was consistent for everyone. And so it did weed out people that didn't fit into that. But I liked going into an interview and saying, I only need to ask about these 2 leadership principles. Here's a bank of questions that are already pre-written that I can use, or I can
Yeah.
make one of my own based on one of these.
Yeah.
And all I need to do is get my 2 answers from this thing on how I feel I would rate them 1 to 5 in this specific thing. Not how are they all together, how are they, because like as you spread out the more people that interview them, the more varied just opinions you're going to get about like, oh, I thought they did a great job here. And even I found that like my biases of like, oh, they answered this in a weird way that I think would impact that other leadership principle in a negative way. And then I talked to the person that had that leadership principle and like, oh, they did great. They answered this perfectly. And this, like, oh, cool. Like then I was wrong. Like whatever my
Yeah.
assumption was based on what they were doing was wrong. But I do feel like the interviewing, especially as you get more senior, needs to slow down, where
Mhm.
there's too many candidates and we're trying to weed through all of them, right? Like every job is getting every AI resume now. And it's like, I need to have an AI AI system reading the AI resumes so that we can just find the right ones. I'm like, that's not how this works. And
Yeah.
I often find that just putting out smaller feelers into smaller networks of like, hey, this is like, I know this space a
That
little
starts
well.
to lead like to gatekeeping though.
Yes. And that is my problem. And that is where I think that you need to go outside of your comfort zone and outside the network to get really good people and good ideas and some
Mm.
fresh perspective on things.
Yeah.
And in those cases, I often feel like that companies need to go to more job fairs, right? Like, especially in tech, like we just need to show up at a university
Or a conference.
or a conference where the person is comfortable. You
Yeah.
as the company should be uncomfortable going to the situation so someone else is comfortable, and then say, hey, I want to like, I just want to ask you some questions and we want to talk about this. And hey, if you're interested, I would like to spend a day with you. And that sucks because it's like, you can't do that for everyone. And
Yeah.
not everyone has a day. I have kids and I'm not going to do
I
that.
really
Like,
hope that it does become more of a conversation though, because I think conversations are easier to have than like just trick questions. Like when you know what's like how you said, like when you know a structure and you know kind of what's expected of you, you can kind of meet that, and it's not just your anxiety or nervousness, and it's kind of gives you a kind of structure to shine in.
and
Yeah.
as the interviewer, you want a logical conclusion. You want to
Yeah.
boil the people down to numbers. And you say the highest number wins, right? You're like, this
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
hard decision about a person that I don't know. And I'm spending 3 hours with them, and then I'm going to decide if I'm going to spend, pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that's a very
Yeah.
like hard conversation to have. So like, well, or were you a 10 or a 5? Because if you're a
Yeah.
6, then the 7's going to win, right? And like that's
Yeah.
how it kind of boils down. And it
that's why
sucks.
I think you should set them up for success with at least knowing what's expected of them. It's like
Yeah,
that
and I
ties
think
to
that's really
people.
important, because I did an interview once where I spoke to the recruiter and they're like, "Oh yeah, the interview's like going to be super conversational. You're going to meet with the hiring manager, la la." La." I show up for the interview. The hiring manager's there along with 2 developers. Um, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, and by the way, we expect that you'll be pair programming. I'm like, what the fuck? I wasn't mentally prepared for this. Like, what's going on? And I, after the interview, I was like so rattled. I emailed the recruiter and I said, like, look, this is not cool. I'm withdrawing my name from consideration because this is not what you promised me, and I was not prepared. And I feel, like manage people's expectations. Because I felt like I ended up not representing myself to my fullest potential to these potential employers, and that was really annoying. The other thing that I want to mention is, I know like a lot of organizations are, have this like whole RTO thing, which I think is unfortunate that we're again tying people to like geographic locations, because during my stint at 2Cows, one of the things that I had to do was I had to hire into both of my teams, and I ended up with a really diverse team because we were accepting remote applications. So I not only had people here in Canada, but I also hired someone from Turkey and someone from Brazil. And I thought it was amazing because like we had so many different like cultural perspectives, different experiences. One of the guys that I hired was an IC, but he was coming from management. And he's like, I don't want to do management. I want to focus on my tech skills and be an IC. But I could also rely on him for like that empathy of like, he knows what it was like to be a manager. So he can, in some ways he unofficially, without even knowing, I guess, knows how to like deal with the ICs who are a little less experienced, don't have that management perspective. So having those perspectives was so cool, and I feel like we lose a little bit of that when we're so fixated on hiring for a specific geographic location.
Yeah.
It hurts your ability to hire the best people for that job.
Yes. I mean, I would have missed out on these 2 amazing hires if I'd been just restricted to like North America.
So many companies are like, we hire the best people in Seattle.
It also
It's like, oh, that's not how this works.
It also is going to get rid of so many people with disabilities and moms and military, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's going to cut down the people that are able to just get into tech. But
yeah, I agree. Like, there's something to be said. I have a friend who was working from home before it was even fashionable, and she said like she looked for a company where she could work from home because that way she could be home when her kids arrived home from school at 3:30. And I'm like, damn, that's so nice. Like, meanwhile, I had to spend like I had to rush home from work at 5 o'clock, and I lived like pretty close to the office. Rush home at 5 o'clock to go pick up my daughter at school at aftercare. And unfortunately, she was like the last one left, and she's like, Mom, I'm the only one here, and that mom guilt comes into play. And it's stressful. It's horrible.
There's no way I could do my job as a single mom if I couldn't rush and go get them from school. It would be like so much money in after school care. Like my kids would I'd never see them.
It's expensive.
Adriana, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you online?
So I can be found on LinkedIn and Twitter. Sorry, not Twitter. LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Can you edit out that other part? So I can be found on LinkedIn and Blue Sky. All right. LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. My handle is Adriana M. Villela. So it's ADRIANA M VI, V as in Victor, ILLELA on both Blue Sky and Mastodon. So, yes.
And we will have you in the Fork Around and Find Out Blue Sky starter pack for guests. So if anyone wants to find you there, you'll be there. So.
Thank you. Well, this was fun.
And thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Fork Around and Find Out. If you like this show, please consider sharing it with a friend, a coworker, a family member, or even an enemy. However we get the word out about this show helps it to become sustainable for the long term. If you want to sponsor this show, please go to fafo.fm/sponsor and reach out to us there about what you're interested in sponsoring and how we can help. We hope your systems stay available and your pagers stay quiet. We'll see you again next time.